Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth, and we're an emotional journey podcast. We watch movies, we talk about how we feel, and perhaps how the world may feel about these movies. Sometimes we equate our feelings to the world's feelings.
Because, we are an authority. No, we're not. Well, this week we are doing the 2004 classic, I want to say, because it is a classic, Napoleon Dynamite. We've been waiting for this one. We're all excited.
So the Wikipedia summary goes as such. Napoleon Dynamite is a 2004 American independent coming-of-age comedy film directed by Jared Hess, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jerusha Hess.
Which is the only other time I've ever heard the name Jerusha. The first being Superstore.
Okay.
I've never heard that name before.
The film stars Jon Heder as Napoleon Dynamite, a socially awkward and eccentric teenager living in the small town of Preston, Idaho. Napoleon spends his days doodling mythical creatures, dealing with bullies, and navigating high school life with his equally quirky family. When he befriends a new student, Pedro, and a shy girl named Deb, the trio embarks on a journey of friendship, self-expression, and an unconventional campaign for class president. The film was based on Hess's earlier short film, Palooka? I don't know if I'm saying that right. And became a surprise box office success, grossing over $46 million on a $400,000 budget. I don't like that. It makes it sound like his quirky family is there going through the high school life with him. That makes that's weird.
Yeah.
That's an odd way of
weirdly
putting it.
written. It should I think the placement of the
So
family.
thanks, Wikipedia.
Yay!
But I could have written my own. I chose not to. Jared Hess, known for directing Nacho Libre and Gentlemen Broncos, which I don't know if you know that film.
One. Don't know that at all.
It is about two Broncos who dress in tails, and they're very Class A. Day Class A.
Day Class A.
No, I don't know. I've never heard of Gentlemen Broncos, but that doesn't mean anything. Nacho Libre, however, I have.
I have heard of this.
I've never seen it, though.
I feel like it was always playing in the background when the kids were little. Because, it's Jack Black, and I think they played on Nickelodeon a lot.
Right.
This is one of those movies that is just an enigma. It was really magical when it happened because it's just not your traditional movie. Even a Wes Anderson had to go, oh, wait a minute, that shit's on point. Because it was so odd.
Well, whereas Wes Anderson uses a lot of negative space, emotional negative space, in order to create this vacuum of personality. And Napoleon Dynamite does it almost actively, like it's mad at you for something. And you're in for a weird film when at the very start, the opening credits are all things that someone would have found in their high school backpack.
Yes.
Lunch, chapstick.
I'll explain a little bit of that in a minute. Let me just go through our cast because there are some important points we need to make about our cast here. So, like you said, Jon Heder is Napoleon, and Napoleon is the character you want to hug him, but you know damn well he's going to push you away from him really hard. If you went in for a hug, he might like smack you in the face or something. Efren Ramirez played Pedro, who was adorable. I loved Pedro. I love his family. John Grease is Uncle Rico, which honestly, if he hadn't gotten this position, he was actually thinking of walking away from acting at that point. So that was a little surprising when I was reading that. I'm going to screw up his last name, but Aaron Ruel. I think it's Ruel or Ruel. Okay, he's Kipland, which we only hear that full name later on in the credits. Tina Majorino, that she played Deb, or a boondoggle girl. Haley Duff played Summer Wheatley. To me, the queen of this movie is Chandrella Avery, LaFonda. And I'm going to mention these last four. Well, three of them are just, there's a reason why. So Dietrich Bader, Rex, because if you know Dietrich Bader, you know he does a lot of either characters, like, you know, just like specific types of characters. But I can never not think of the Drew Carey Show with him. Just that's my first experience with Dietrich Bader, so I always think of him from that. Sandy Martin is she played the grandma, and she is very much a veteran actress. She has been acting since she was 15 years old, but she was in Real Genius with John Grease. And Carmen Brady, who was a bodybuilder who did American Gladiators. And she plays Starla, who's got a little small part in it, but she's Rex's wife. And then I think one of the most important characters in this movie, Tina, who is played by Dolly. Because Tina was just adorable and I wanted to kiss her little nose. I like the tagline for this movie because it was very... It really does embody the movie, because this movie it doesn't have a plot. And I think that's what I like about it. Like, yeah, there's storylines, but there's no plot to it. And the tagline being, he's out to prove he's got nothing to prove. I feel like that just is the really the best way to describe this movie.
For me, it's the stillness of things. Again, I talked about the negative space. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of a larger town or a larger city, you have this stillness that just kind of like pervades everything.
Yeah.
So you don't get any sounds. You don't get any... There's not even like... Even though when there is background music, it's almost like it's highlighting the nothing.
Yeah, and I feel like the music is there. It's there, but really the only person who I feel like has any type of a theme is LaFonda. Because you know it's going to be a LaFonda theme because of the music. Like a scene with her in it because the music changes. But I really don't feel like... yeah, you're right. There's not... The music itself is kind of odd because the songs are not from the year that the movie takes place in. So that's why this movie has this very misconceived perception of time. It's almost like this little town in the Midwest is encapsulated in the 80s because of style, music, even the technology, but yet it takes place in 2004, or the early 2000s per se.
No, it's supposed to be in 2004, like when the movie was actually made.
Oh, okay. So, you know, there's that, and yet there's this 80s, the side ponytails and the computers. It's just smacks of this 80s. The fact that they're going door to door selling basically Tupperware.
It's kind of like if The Village was based in late 80s, early 90s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Instead of, the 1800s.
Yeah, and then they're not actually in a park. They find out they're really in a park somewhere.
So the thing that tells you that you're in a small town and not just a rural area of a larger town is when Napoleon gets on the bus. Mm-hmm. So when he gets on the bus, you see there are kids of all ages on it. Mm-hmm. That is a lot like my town was, in which there's not enough children to justify everyone in high school taking one bus and everyone in middle school taking another bus. You had a lot of different ages on those buses. It made more sense that, you would have one bus filled with a whole bunch of different types of kids.
Weirdly enough, they do that here. And they did that when we were out in West Texas. They didn't do that when I was growing up. We, different schools, we all had our different buses.
Yeah.
So it was weird for me that when my kids were getting on a bus with, kindergartners and they were going to high school, it was weird for me.
If you'll notice in the movie, the kids who are in high school, mm-hmm. there's enough of them to justify the buses, except probably they mostly take their cars.
Yes. And Napoleon obviously does not have a car.
Well, we're talking about a lot of underprivileged kids.
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon they don't have that kind of money.
No.
Obviously, his parents aren't in the picture, but they don't ever
address
point to the parents at all.
It's just like
it's her grandmother and Uncle Rico, and an aunt was mentioned.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so the family is definitely estranged, and you notice there's no real unity of family.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of form little cliques that don't last very long. So there is no real center to the family other than grandmother's house.
Yeah, and grandma tends to be a bit of an enabler where she's just, taking care of these boys, because at one point Napoleon is like, when Rico shows up and they don't want him there, and Napoleon's like, Kip is 31. He can watch us, So obviously they don't trust Kip because he does act so immature that they have to have somebody come and babysit him.
And Kip doesn't mind because he doesn't really understand responsibility at all.
Mm-mm.
And nor does he want it.
No.
So Napoleon is this misfit. And his whole thing is he's awkward, unfashionable. He isn't understood by the people around him because he acts differently. And Napoleon just is not a very likable person.
No.
If you were to take him strictly at the things that you see in the film, rather than idealizing him because he is considered the protagonist, he is not a particularly likable person.
Oh, no.
If he were in my school, I would be annoyed with him all the time.
Oh, God, yeah. He's the kid where you're just like, oh, my God, Napoleon, just stop. The things he says, the things he does.
Right. And so I think it is a mistake to think that in some way he is autistically coded. I don't think that is the case.
I would never have thought that.
A lot of people do.
Oh, no. I don't think he's autistically coded in the least.
No, I think that he is just a kid who is very awkward and has developed no social skills because he's had no social interactions.
Yeah.
His family are all very distant from each other emotionally.
And the fact that his brother is so much older than him, he has this adult mentality in a sense of, well, I should be able to do this and that and the other thing. It's like a student that I had in the past who the parents were probably telling this child, you're an adult now, you're 22. And in her underdeveloped brain, and she was like, I am an adult. Flip a table. I can do what I want to do. And that's kind of what he's got going.
I'm going to buy a cake every day.
Yeah. I mean, without the disability, he's got that same mentality. He is a kid who has it in his mind that he's an adult, but without fully understanding what it means to be an adult. And when he gets on the bus and the kid is like, what are you going to do today, Napoleon? He's like, whatever I want,
Gosh.
And then he throws the freaking doll out the window and lets it trail behind the bus on the string. Why? Because he's
bored.
And he's showing, and it shows you right then and there in that first setup scene is, I can do whatever I want because I'm a goddamn adult, but yet I'm going to throw my doll out the window and trail it behind the bus. Because
I don't know
why?
that he thinks he's an adult.
No, but just that whole...
I think a lot of it has to do with him thinking that he just has no responsibility, doesn't know where he's going, and he doesn't really want to think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a plan at all for anything
Probably
beyond
not.
what he's doing at the moment. He is acting much like the way a dog would. Mm-hmm. They don't plan for it. They just do the thing and that's happening right then.
And I'm not saying he thinks he's an adult, but he only has adult interactions, and they're not necessarily teaching him how to behave or to socialize with his peers. He's seeing Kip on the computer and grandma going out with her friends. And so I'm going to do what I want to do because that's what adults do. I'm going to be that way.
I think without Pedro, who is equally laconic, but also more likable in some ways.
And he has a huge support system.
Right. But he is, and that is the difference, is he has some social skills. He just really doesn't know what to do with it because he's still a kid and he is awkward. Mm-hmm. But he's laconic. He doesn't really vocalize things. He doesn't really get out there. So they both kind of bond in that way.
Yeah.
That they have that social awkwardness for different reasons. And without Pedro and Deb, without those two, I don't think Napoleon would ever advance beyond what he's at right now.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And if you look at if you project beyond the film where Napoleon Dynamite or the other characters might be after the film, you have to think that Napoleon Dynamite's still in that town. He's still drawing those same drawings. Without improving on those drawings, they're going to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're going to look like a high school kid still drawing those drawings. Because for him, this is not about advancing. This is about staying the same. He's never going to go beyond that point. And I think John Heder was very much right when he said in interviews and stuff that if Napoleon Dynamite grew up, he would not be near as likable as you think he would be.
Oh no, he had said that he would probably have been married and divorced and paying alimony and child support, and he'd be working like 2 jobs because he has no ambition to do anything better than what he's doing. And yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
But again, not his issue.
No.
That is not his fault.
No.
It's his issue. It's not his fault. He didn't have any social skills, and he was never taught to have them by example.
Yes. And that's a huge, and when I said before, about wanting to give him a hug, that's from a parent's point of view. Like, I would love to go up to him and be like, you need a hug. You sweet boy. You just need and he would, probably put his hands on my chest and push me away really hard. And that's the kid that, that needs the hug. He's the kid that you see in the classroom who's angry and just making up stories about himself hunting wolverines in Alaska. Like, that was actually happening. It's that kid that needs not so much the attention, but he needs the guidance. And that's the one that you want to like work a little bit harder with.
Right. And that's going to be the focus of this film is not his journey for self-discovery. It's his journey of just the same thing that he does every single day. The people that have the changes are the people around him.
Yep.
Deb changes in very subtle ways.
Yes.
She stands up for herself rather than running away.
Exactly. Because she does run away in the beginning, and then when she gets mad at him later on for something he didn't do, she confronts him. She goes out of her way and finds a payphone.
Right.
And again, 2004 payphone. Good luck with that, girlfriend. I mean, they were there, but they were running low.
But again, small town.
Yeah,
probably. I mean, if you're poor, you're not going to have cell phones, nor are there probably very many cell towers.
True.
And you're going to just, you're going to do what your parents did before you and use payphones and stuff like that.
Well, I always related to Deb in the sense of her shyness. Not her ambition, because girlfriend's got some goals. I mean, between the boondoggles and her photos by Deb, bless her. I never would have had that type of ambition to try to start my own business in my basement.
Well, she's trying to go to college.
Yeah, and that's really cool of her.
So she wants to get out of that place. So she isn't planning on being there. And that's
her
good
shyness.
for
her shyness is something. As a kid, that was me. That just, afraid of what everyone is going to say to you because, you don't know what they're going to say. And if it's going to be something negative, and how are you going to deal with that? And it's easier to just speak by yourself and be quiet than to not say anything at all. And as much as I talk, and as much as people who know me, and they state they're like, you were shy? Yes. Believe it or not, I didn't talk to people for a long time.
I was a lot like Napoleon in a way, is that I was very socially awkward. I had different reasons for it, but I was socially awkward. I didn't understand the hierarchy, and there is a hierarchy among children. I didn't understand what that hierarchy was, so oftentimes I was, addressing the wrong people and not realizing it. I was putting myself into cliques I didn't realize were cliques, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you don't really understand that. When you're autistic, you really don't understand it because that makes no logical sense why, these high school kids who are all of the same age, all grew up in the same town, would start developing these individual groups in which they isolated themselves from everyone else and stood above them in these hierarchical fashions. And that is something that I identified, at least with Napoleon. Also, the flights of fancy, like the Pegasus, and those types of things lend themselves to the ideals that I had as a kid, is wanting to get out of the reality and like focus on the fantasy of things.
Yeah.
I felt that was more important than being in the stillness of the drudgery of daily life. It was boring to me. And when you're insanely bored and you have no real limitations to what you're going to do, you can get into some real trouble.
Yeah.
I got into a lot of trouble as a kid.
How old were you, or what grade were you in when you first, like, not necessarily, yes, killed a man, not necessarily were bullied, but like were made to feel that you were wrong by your peers? Like the first time they called you out on something and you just didn't understand how or why.
Oh, that's a hard one. I think it was going to be maybe 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, 6th grade, because I was a big kid. I was a fat kid. I'll just say I was fat. And I don't really see myself the way other people see me. I have my own, like, what I look like in my head.
Yeah.
And it's never jived up with what I look like in the mirror. Being trans, being autistic, I have a twofer. So I don't have that vision of myself. And because I was bigger, I got made fun of at different points in time. And when it happened, I was always stunned because I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And so when it happened, when someone made fun of me for stepping out of my lane into their clique, it was often directed as, you're fat. And they made fun of you, you're a whale or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like at the end of the school year, 6th grade school year, they really had never made fun of me like that. And we were playing like a really soft version of baseball. It wasn't even wiffle ball. It was something softer than that. And it was just a fun day for us to be out there playing and stuff. And this kid, I honestly I can't remember his last name. I think it was Whitlow or something like that. And I feel bad about this now, looking back at it. But he was he was a batter. And I think I was like on second base or whatever. I was actually like in the infield. And he started making fun of me for being fat. And I just lost all vision. I just completely blacked out. And I was beating the crap out of him on home base.
So kind of like Ralphie in Christmas Story.
Kind of like that, a lot bloodier.
Oh, no.
Now, I broke his nose.
Oh, no.
I loosened some teeth.
Holy crap. My asking you this question was not supposed to go in this direction.
I know,
Holy
it really
shit.
wasn't. And it's not something I'm proud of. What I'm saying is, those are things I did not understand. I didn't understand why he was making fun of me. I knew that this was a calling out of some kind, and there had to be a response. And I had a lot of rage from being abused as a child. I had trauma that I was dealing with. Everybody has something.
Yes.
Well, this Whitlow kid did not realize I had something. And so, yes, I wasn't just hitting him with my fists. I was using elbows.
Oh, wow.
I was really like hurting the kid. And they pulled me off of him. They sent me home. I was in trouble. I got beaten for that one by my dad. That is the kind of thing, and it marks you for the rest of your school life with the other kids don't really want to make fun of you anymore to your face, but they will definitely make fun of you behind your back.
Well, so my situation
Sorry,
was,
not funny.
No,
Not funny. I didn't play tetherball outside. That would have been nice.
That would have been nice. No, I mean, mine wasn't funny either, but mine is so not anywhere near as severe as yours. Now I'm thinking mine is nothing compared to yours. I was in kindergarten when I first I was made to feel very bad about myself.
Oh, wow. That's so much sooner.
Yes. And so I went to kindergarten in New York, in Yonkers, and I remember there were 2 kindergarten classes, and the other class came over we were doing the three goats, the bridge, that story,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
And the other class came, and they were sitting behind my class, and there were these 2 little girls, and they were making fun of my braid. My hair was long and straight, but my mom had braided it, one braid down the back of my head. And it wasn't a French braid, it was just a ponytail braid. It was just a simple braid. And they were making fun of it. It was weird. And these were little white girls making fun of a white girl. So I still, to this day, don't know. I don't remember what was said. I don't know why, but they were making fun of my braid. I don't know if it was because my hair was super long. My hair was so long that the braid went almost all the way down my back because my hair was really, really long then.
Sounds like a weird thing to make fun of.
It was very
Yes.
weird, but I heard them and I did not react. I curled in on myself, and to the point where we had snack afterwards. And this is why I remember it too, is we had those, they looked like Oreos, but they weren't. They had the white cookie, but it had the strawberry pink cream in it.
No idea.
Okay, so they
some kind of weird form of Hydrox.
Kind of, yeah, but it was a whiter cookie, like the yellow cookie, whatever it is, the vanilla cookie, and then it had a strawberry cream in it,
Yeah,
and it had like a little
okay.
triangle, or not a triangle, a little rectangle on the top cookie, and the pink would poke through it. It was just a pretty little cookie, and I don't know why. 45 years later, I still remember this because I remember weird shit. Can't tell you why I went into the kitchen earlier, but I could tell you a story that happened to me in kindergarten. But, and again, that's an ADD thing. Weird things that we remember.
Right.
Or black out on. We can black out on years, and then we'll remember weird stuff like this. But I remember I was so excited about having those cookies because I am extremely food motivated, even back then. But I wouldn't take a cookie because I didn't want to go near the girls.
Oh, I know that.
So I
feeling,
stayed
yeah.
away from them because they made fun of my braid. And all I could think of was, but my mommy did this. My mommy braided my hair. So I could never, even looking to this day, understand why they even had anything to say about it. And they probably were not even meaning to sound like bullies. They probably were just little kids with no filter. Looking at how little kids are and 5-year-olds are.
Yeah.
They have
weren't
no
doing it
filter.
nefariously.
They were
yes.
probably, but my brain and the way I am wired,
Well, sure, you're the one that was encountering it.
I
it was
took it
directed at
very
you.
serious. And it was one of my earliest memories of being made to feel bad about myself, which started a long lifetime of insecurities and just being very much an introverted, shy child. And it went on and on and on, like in elementary school. I had this one kid who he would threaten oh my God, he was always in trouble. And he would threaten to kill me on the daily. This was in 5th grade.
So like a Princess Bride thing, or
No, he was gonna kill me. This was when I had the teacher who sang he would reward us by breaking out his guitar and singing John Denver songs to a bunch of 5th graders. Because, that's what we wanted to hear. And before that, I think in 3rd grade, I actually had a teacher who tormented me, grabbed me by my face. That's how, yeah. So needless to say, bullying is a really shitty thing. And it sticks with you forever.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that.
That's why in my classrooms, I have a very, very low tolerance for bullying. We do not bully. And I will spend if I catch any of my students bullying another student, regardless of their their disability or intellectual capabilities, we will spend at least an hour discussing why, with examples of why bullying hurts people in long, long terms.
Well, Napoleon gets bullied during the film, but it isn't something that sticks with him. It's almost like every time it happens, he sheds it off in some way or another. Sometimes it's through action, like dancing. Sometimes it's, through him, like, making these vague threats. Sometimes it's him kicking back at them, but not actually hitting them at all.
Like he does something and then he runs off awkwardly because he knows he's being a butthead.
Right.
But I think that's just years of taking it and then just, this is how I've learned how to give it back a little bit.
It's some way of reconciling the fact that you have some kind of control, and that control is to run away.
Yeah.
It isn't a fight or flight. Fight or flight doesn't really connect that way.
No.
He's running because it's something he has control over. And, that's the same with Pedro, who is a quiet kid, who's unassuming in many ways, but he's much more likable.
Definitely.
And that's because he is good-natured. And he doesn't go gosh every time something happens. He is non-reactive.
He is. And he is, like, the only time he kind of questions is when Napoleon is like, we're best friends. And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, you've got my back regardless, right? And he's like, what? I was like, dude, I just met you.
Understand what that means.
I just met you, man.
But Pedro goes through his own thing too, because as he's running for class president, he starts getting hot. His head gets hot.
Yeah, see, and I am so glad you pointed that out to me. I did not think about why. I think of it as just like, well, yeah, why is his head getting hot? What is wrong with this kid? I did not think of a panic attack.
Well, that's what happens to me, is I'll get hot. I just don't have a severe reaction to the feeling of heat.
Okay, see, I don't get hot when I have an anxiety attack. I feel like everything is crawling, like my skin is buzzing. That's how I get.
Yeah, a lot of people have different reactions.
So I just didn't think about the hot thing.
Right, but a lot of people are known, it's known for people to have panic attacks and to start stripping their clothes off, trying to get their body to cool down.
Yeah.
And Pedro is doing that. Now, nowhere did I see that this is actually what was happening.
Yeah, no,
I tried looking into it. Nothing says that, but I'm saying, based on what I see Pedro say and how he reacts at an extreme stress point, in which he knows he's about to lose this election because the most popular girl in school is running against him.
Yeah, after he'd asked her to the dance and she said no.
Right. Is that he's having a very big or very deep stress reaction, and that is his anxiety attack.
Yes. I wanted to point out really quickly also, only because when I was doing my research, I came across this and I figured out, just as a clarifying, because it kind of bothered me that people were being, and granted, because when you start doing research, you end up on I don't know about you, but I end up on a Reddit K-hole, and it's just like...
No, I try not to go on Reddit.
I try not to, but sometimes I get good information from Reddit, just because people's conversations...
I don't really use it as an information
No,
source.
not so much... Well, I know I just said information, but more of... People will question things, which gives me another angle to research.
Sure, it's perfectly valid. I'm saying I just don't use it.
So, unfortunately, when I was looking to see if maybe there was something on there, just maybe conversational or just things people pointed out, people thought Carmen Brady, who plays Starla, was a trans woman.
Of course they would, because Starla does not fit the patriarchal version of what they think a woman should look like.
And Carmen Brady, while this may be her only acting per se. It's not? Okay.
It's not her only acting role.
I didn't look into it. I just knew her. I knew of her because back in the day.
It's one of the only ones she's done.
Yeah, she hasn't done much, but I remember we used to watch American Gladiator back in the day. And,
yeah, she's done Screen Slam 2010.
Ooh, and she is a bodybuilder.
She's a master bodybuilder.
She is amazing. Okay, I wouldn't mess with that woman.
And she seems to have a very sweet personality from the videos I've seen of her. And I looked her up because there was so little information about her. I wasn't worried about her being trans.
No.
For me, I knew that she wasn't trans.
I knew she wasn't either, but I just, I realized I was looking for other stuff, and that's what came up. And
I wanted to see what got her into bodybuilding, but I couldn't find anything that said why she got into it, other than it was something she was interested in.
Yeah, I don't know.
But she is still going to this day. She's still like bodybuilding, and I mean, I will never be that fit in my life. No. But she's pretty amazing, and I think that she probably had a fantastic time on on the movie.
And what I think is funny is, and not funny in a comical way, but funny in a sweet way, is when Dietrich Bader's out there and he's doing Rex in his Rex Kwon Do, and he points to the picture of Starla, and it's one of her American Gladiator pictures, but it's still her.
It's her.
And he's like, and I'm married to that beautiful woman up there. I mean, he's proud of who he's married to, and the fact that he beats the shit out of Rico, and all Rico was trying to do was to sell her some boob cream.
Rico is a
creeper.
Rico is a creeper to everyone.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he was just trying to sell boob cream. But
so that is the thing about Diedrich that I really like, is he really gets into his characters.
He really does.
He did it on Drew Carey.
He does.
And he
did such an idiot on Drew Carey.
He did it on Bones.
He did on Bones. I forgot he was on Bones.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite FBI directors. He just really is, because he's so casual with it that it almost makes you feel like he actually works.
Well,
with Booth, I mean, you get the sense that they really had chemistry together. And I really hate that he left the show, and I don't really know exactly why. I'm sure he had other things going on.
Yeah.
But he is such a good actor.
He really is.
He can really fill a different role every time. He's really good at comedy, but I think he could really shine in drama.
But he also has this ability to morph into the characters that he is portraying. So he was in the Beverly Hillbillies movie that they had made.
Yeah, that's right.
He was Jethro. Yeah. And honestly, he was Jethro. He was freaking Jethro. And it's just... I was never even a Beverly Hillbillies fan as a kid, but
I was huge. I was such a huge fan of the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, not my thing, but Jethro, he did a really good job of it.
I really enjoyed the idea that a hillbilly, kind of my area of growing up in the world, in the Ozarks in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the idea of a hillbilly striking it rich and being able to make rich people cringe.
Yes.
I really love that idea. It's almost like the reason why I wanted to be someone like the Dweezil. You wanted to cause other people to cringe just because you were so out there.
Yeah.
And I really loved the idea of that kind of like direction where you have all the power in that situation.
Yeah. Well, we had watched not too long ago the documentary about the woman who played Grandma.
Yeah, Granny.
Not Grandma. Again, I didn't watch the show.
Yeah, well, Hillbilly Granny.
Yeah. Did you know, I believe it was Cloris Leachman who played her in the movie. But
I think it was.
I love Cloris Leachman. She was another one, and very understated actress who I feel like more people need to go back and learn about her, because she's just was an amazing person. But
so Deb
is
played she's done many things.
Oh, yes.
But earlier than this, like, I don't know that it's one of her first roles, but she was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Waterworld.
Oh yes, I read about that,
and I loved Waterworld. I know a lot of
girl.
People. I know, and a lot of people hated Waterworld, but I really enjoyed it.
I liked it,
and I thought she did such a good job as the kid in it.
Yeah,
she was a very good living map.
She really was.
But I really enjoyed that movie.
Well, she's got such snark with him, and it's funny because it's like, now I'm picturing her and I'm going, shit, yeah, it is the little girl from Waterworld. And even when I read that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, she is. But she's that is so nothing like Deb.
But she was also in Veronica Mars.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, because it was a series I really enjoyed. I really wanted that to keep going and to take a different direction. But Veronica Mars can get dark very quickly.
Yeah.
But she did such a great job, and you can tell that the minute Deb speaks, you can equate it to all of those characters. She has a very distinct style of speech.
Yes.
And it blends in very well with the styles of Pedro and with Napoleon Dynamite, until Napoleon Dynamite does an expression like "Gosh."
Gah.
But when they're just talking, it is almost like, I like to think of it as a dead fish. It just kind of flops around. The linguistics kind of just flop there. They don't really go anywhere. They don't accent.
They're the Midwestern American Harry Potter, Ron and Hermione.
But even the other people, the other kids in the school do not have that speech pattern.
Yeah. Actually, no, I can't even say that they're that because Pedro is neither Ron nor Harry.
I think he's kind of Ron in a lot of ways.
Ron's a bit of a... See, I feel like Napoleon is more Ron. But Pedro is definitely not Harry.
I think
because,
I
honestly,
equate it because Pedro has a large family that's very supportive.
That is true. If you want to go by that.
That's
I was going
where
by
I'm going with that.
personalities. And Harry's so obtuse. But no.
I don't really want to equate all
I really
those.
don't want to equate.
It doesn't really match up.
It doesn't. It was just what I was thinking. It was just the whole, the two boys and a girl thing. I tend to always throw that in there.
So these three characters... And I kind of intertwined them because at different points in the film, they were kind of the protagonists. Okay? So we have Napoleon Dynamite, whose one act of bravery, one true act of bravery, is when he just drops everything and he dances. That is why it is so impressive. That is why... That is the center of the movie for me, is because it's just a very brave act. Out of nowhere, he does this one thing, and he does it not for accolades, because he doesn't even stick around.
No,
he runs away.
He freaks out.
He doesn't even know that they gave him a standing ovation.
Nope.
He did it because he wanted to do it for his friend, and it was a true, sweet act of bravery. One that you know for a fact he will never, ever replicate again in his life. He has done the one true thing in his life. He did it in high school.
Yeah.
And he never got the accolades.
And it's funny because the look on his face when they're waiting for Pedro to come out and do his skit, because he didn't know he was supposed to do something after his speech. And the look on his face, well, I guess it's up to me now,
But he doesn't say anything to Pedro.
Nope,
he just does it. So he's not looking for a pat on the back. This is the one time. And I think that is a true protagonist kind of thing to do. And then Pedro does his one act of bravery, which is to step out on that stage knowing full well he is not going to win this, believing he's not going to win this.
Yeah.
And also knowing he doesn't have a skit because he was never told there was going to be one. So he knows that everything is stacked against him.
Yeah.
He's already gone through all of his panic attacks and everything else, and he does this one true act of bravery for himself. These are defining moments for them. And then Deb, when she stands up to Napoleon.
Yes.
But not just standing up to Napoleon. When she stands up to Uncle Rico, who does the creepiest fucking thing.
Oh, my God.
If a young child is faced the other way and you walk up on them, that is a creepy fucking thing to do. He's presenting himself in a way that he is blocking her access to get away.
Yep.
And she handles it very well. She keeps calling him by his name. I don't know if you noticed, these are like textbook things to do if you think you're about to be assaulted. Keep addressing them by their name.
Yep.
That makes them understand that you know who they are and that you see them as a human being. You're keeping that link there, that you're a human being as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she keeps talking to him. She keeps addressing him, trying to receive communication from him.
Yes.
Because it keeps him talking rather than acting.
Mm-hmm.
These are all, whoever wrote this part of it has known
Been
that
there.
kind of fear.
They were there before.
And it is written in a way that you wouldn't expect it to be fear, but you feel it yourself, even if the characters aren't necessarily feeling that.
Exactly. And you can, the fact that, this isn't his first time around, too, because he has been creepy with so many characters all the way through.
And I expected better of Laszlo.
Really, though? So, I was going to talk about those credits in the beginning, the food. So, there's a reason behind it.
Well, not just the food, but chapstick, things you find in a backpack.
But
or
the food
locker.
was very important. So all of those plates that you see in the beginning credits are food that is actually eaten by the characters throughout the movie.
Yeah,
So
tater
tots, the nachos,
burger,
the steak, and the sandwich that she eats, and she gets the mayonnaise on her face, and it's served by the 3 people who actually serve those dishes.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and it was very, important and just well thought out in that beginning part. Also, all of the pictures except for the unicorn were all drawn by John Heder.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah,
he drew everything but the unicorn.
And you can call it a unicorn, but it's have
really
wings.
A Pegasus, I know.
So it's a Pegasus.
Yes,
or it's a
pegacorn.
Pegacorn.
Which is, it's what my back tattoo is, except it's got butterfly wings.
So, with a fart coming out the back of it. That's how it propels itself.
That's how it propels.
It can't flap. It just spreads its wings.
Those wings are never
farts.
big enough to carry that much weight. A couple ton horse.
So we know that this was shot in Preston, Idaho, because that's where Jared Hess grew up.
Yes.
And did you know that I didn't write any of this down, so I just remember that the alpaca.
Oh, Dolly, Tina
is actually Jared Hess's mother's alpaca.
So Dolly was Jared Hess's mother's alpaca. Okay, so keeping it in the family there, Dolly.
I mean, it was literally her backyard.
Oh, okay.
That was her backyard that they were feeding her from.
Well, they said that they filmed they were 2 houses. One was only for insides and one was for outsides. And so Deb's little basement studio was actually the basement of their interior of Napoleon's house.
Oh, okay. So they were using it to full effect.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure it was also Pedro's house because it had that damn paneling in both houses.
So let's talk about Kip for a minute. Kip is emotionally unavailable in many ways.
Yes.
His family, Napoleon Dynamite's family, are together in location, but they are not together emotionally at all.
No.
And I get that in some ways, that my family was never truly close without my mother as a center.
Yeah.
And I think that perhaps maybe they were closer when they had parents around. I don't know what happened to their parents.
Yeah.
But
I get that.
We know that they're not in the picture.
Yeah, I know. My family was much closer when my grandfather and my great grandmother were alive, because they were the glue that we got together, had barbecues and the whole family. And that's when I was like, when I say I have a big family, that's my thoughts, my memories of this big family. But considering how none of them really speak to each other unless they're directly related, now that those 2 people are gone, we were never really close. It was just they were the glue.
Without the nucleus, the center cannot hold, right?
Yeah.
So we have Kip, who is searching outside the family through the network, through the interwebs. So trying to find people he connects with.
In chat rooms.
Right. And in the early 2000s, that is considered very creepy. It was considered creepy. It was really put down on for people to look on the internet for relationships.
Yes, because you never know if you're going to find a person or you're going to meet a creepy person who's going to come and kill you, because that was my big warning. I met a very good friend through the internet. The woman she was a second mom to me. It was the best experience, and I needed that person at that point in my life. But I get it, but that's the early, and this is 2004, right around, that's when I met them. But we spent so much of our time in those chat rooms. I mean, I spent a lot.
I did too. I spent a lot of
so
time
much
in
time in chat rooms talking to
people that you connect with, as far as like, your fandoms or the movies you enjoy. Usually for for me, it was about TV shows a lot of times, but that is not what Kip is doing. Kip is going in.
He's on a dating service,
right? He's looking to find love. He's looking to find a connection with someone, and he's not getting. There's nowhere here for him to go. In this small town, he feels very isolated, and he is kind of isolated. Even he doesn't have the way to travel into town.
Yeah, he doesn't have a car.
And he doesn't have a job. He's pretty much just isolated at the house.
Yeah.
But he lucks out because he finds LaFonda. Who is probably the brightest star in this entire film.
Oh, definitely.
She brings light to not just Kip's life. I think she brings it to everyone she encounters.
I mean, for the few minutes that she talks to Napoleon,
she changes the course of his life. Yeah. She changes the course of Pedro's life and Deb's life just by giving him that music.
I mean, she just takes the moment. She doesn't know this kid from anything, and she's just like, "Why are you sweaty?" Because he just been in his room, and he comes out, and why are you sweaty? And then he's like, "I was dancing." "Oh, you like to dance? Well, here, my cousin has this video," and she just didn't.
Well, it's not video; it's the tape.
It's a VHS tape. Yeah.
No, not a VHS.
Oh no.
That's something he got from the pawn shop.
Oh yes, from the pawn shop. It was the music.
Thrift store. But yeah, it was the music cassette.
My bad. So yeah, and it's just like, how brilliant. I mean, she's just a ray of sunshine. You're right. I mean, she just comes in.
Even in 2004, she's giving him a cassette tape.
She is giving
everything
him a cassette
is very
tape.
80s and 90s coded.
God, it so is. And it's just, I guess it is to show that sometimes these not older, but these isolated little towns tend to get, maybe not so much now that we are very much with
connected.
We're very connected, but that was in the beginning of the connection, and so we were still doing AOL,
I mean, like Uncle Rico had a cell phone, but he wasn't on his cell phone. He would get calls from it, but he was using a big VHS recorder to record himself throwing a football,
because that was what.
Because Uncle Rico lives in the past.
Yes, but also 2004. I'm pretty sure my cell phone could only do texting when you had to hit the button multiple times to hit.
Right. That's what I'm saying is that we had technology, but it wasn't sufficiently advanced
we weren't walking around with little computers in our pockets.
It didn't take all your attention away from everything. And I'm not complaining about that, because I enjoy the small computer that I have in my pocket.
Oh, I know.
I like being able to look things up whenever I want to. I like being informed. I like listening to people talk. I like watching things. I enjoy the technology.
Exactly. But I also know that I have a problem with it. I know that I have too much screen time. I play games.
I know you do, but also that is also a way of coping with stress.
It is how I deal with stress and depression.
And that's what a lot of people do with it. But I think that with Kip, he's trying to find love. He finds LaFonda, who changes the course of his life and changes the course, well, at least a moment in time for Napoleon. That one act of bravery I don't think would have been possible without LaFonda giving him that one moment of, hey, listen to this. And she spent time talking to him, which is rare for Napoleon.
Oh, yeah. The adults don't do that ever.
I think if you were to extrapolate later on, that LaFonda would probably be the person that Napoleon talked to in his family the most.
Probably.
Because she is a willing ear, and she is responsive, and she is caring and sweet. And I think that is very important in this family that is all very emotionally isolated. The grandmother is super cool because she rides these things and she
But
does
she's
crazy
not-
things on dunes and she does all this crazy stuff, but she is emotionally isolated. The one thing she showed love to was Tina.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. She did. She went out there and was kissing on Tina's nose, which I wish I could have kissed Tina's nose. It looks soft.
But I think that, LaFonda really is the light in this film. And I think she is the thing by which we can say not everything is lost. Not all hope is lost for these people because they find their own moments of bravery, these moments for themselves. Deb becomes a better person because she can speak out now. Mm-hmm. She is no longer side ponytail at the end.
She isn't. Yeah,
she is now very much more confident. You can see it in her face. She has a little bit more makeup on because she's not afraid to do it. Mm-hmm. She responds when Napoleon says, "Can you take a photo of me?" She says it with inflection. She says yes, instead of this dull voice without emotion. Pedro, you see that he is surrounded by a loving family. Mm-hmm. And throughout the film, we have this lowrider that comes through.
I love those guys.
And those two dudes are his cousins, I believe.
I think so.
And they are awesome because not only do they help Pedro, but they just pick up Napoleon and take him to a dance.
They didn't even know who he was.
Right. They take him to a dance and they come and they get his date and help get both of them to the dance.
And then
these gentlemen are very much gentlemen. They are there throughout the film being kind of villainized by the adults.
Yeah, because they're looking at them as their
by
thugs.
The principal and stuff, or not the principal, the
parent, the
father,
dad,
the father of the I forget what her name is.
Trish.
Of the date that
Trish.
Yeah. So
or Trisha.
You can see where, there's this small town racial segregation going on.
They came out of nowhere. So when that kid was getting bullied and Napoleon helps him and he gives him the boondoggle and he goes, vote for Pedro, you got his protection. How did they know the kid was getting picked on? He's outside getting his bike and that asshole comes up and he starts bullying on him again and they come out of nowhere and they just stare the dude down. They were there.
It's the boondoggles. They have positive ion technology. It's quantum technology.
So the boondoggles, in between scenes, John would sit with Tina and they would make boondoggles.
I have to tell you, I never knew that they were called boondoggles.
I didn't know that either.
I thought they were just
like little
keychains.
Lanyard things, yeah.
Yeah, little lanyards that you make. So in that essence, in the military, we made boondoggles all the time. We just didn't know that's what they were called. We made tethers because we worked around
the paracord,
different equipment, and you don't want to have certain items falling out and getting caught up in that equipment.
Yeah.
Because I worked on nukes, worked in a lot of different areas that you don't want to have loose items.
Yeah.
And those tethers were made because they helped us retain that equipment. Mm-hmm. So it was good to have that. And so, yes, we made boondoggles of all kinds and didn't realize that's what it was.
So this movie had the longest end credits in movie history because they credit all 181 individuals who were in this movie. And that is including all of the extra students that were in the school, but also 2 dentists. Because Aaron Rule, when he he accepted the role of Kip, he got braces put on for the role.
No, yeah, I saw that. I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute.
Yep, he had braces put on
the braces
for the role. So yeah, they actually credit the 2 dentists that did that.
This is an incredibly sweet film.
It really is.
But it hinges on people that are hard to connect to with emotionally. Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of brilliant because you start searching for those things to connect with.
Yeah.
So with Napoleon, you have to find that thing that you connect to with him, and you'll find it because he is kind of an amalgam of all the different facets of a student's life.
He really is. And as I have worked in elementary and middle and high school. And granted, I have focused on special education, but he does embody the kids that you see walking through those halls, the ones that are, you see the confidence in some, and you see the ones that just want to get through the day without being noticed, and the ones that are just, I don't have a fuck to give. And he kind of has that I don't have a fuck to give kind of a, but not in a good way. Yeah. So I remember my first week working at the high school back when I was an assistant, and we were delivering coffee. And because my students, we delivered coffee as part of their job study skills. And there was this one senior, and I knew he was a senior because I never saw him again after that year. He dressed like he was an anime character. Now, when I say he dressed like an anime character, I'm not talking about one of those little cutesy little anime characters. Oh no, he was the lead in an anime. He had the leather boots and the long leather jacket, the high collar. He had the swoopy hair. He looked like a blonde anime character, and he walked through, and he had this brown leather outfit that just was tailored to his body.
And that's what he wore all the time.
All the time. And I'm not saying this in a pervy kind of way, but the boy looked amazing. I've never seen anybody with that kind of confidence at that young of an age.
Or a singular outfit.
In my life. I mean, he might have had other ones. I didn't see him every day, but I'd seen that outfit more than once. He was perfect. And God, to be that, I mean, I was a weird kid in high school, because when I got to high school, I kind of stopped caring about it as much as I was just, I had accepted it. My freshman year, I tried so hard, and I realized by the end of my sophomore year that I was never going to be cool with the cool kids. So I just gave up trying, much to the dismay of my best friend at the time, who no longer became my best friend because she just was done with me, because she wanted me to be that preppy person, and I never fit in with those kids. So, I mean, I'm walking around with a plastic daisy in my hair and my stalker trench coat one day. The next day, I've got green hair, mohawk, or what was that one thing I did? Oh, I had a pair of jean shorts, the ones that come above your knee, the pedal pushers, and I tied ribbons to all the belt loops, like 5 or 6 ribbons that went the length of the pants, so only on the belt loops, so they were spaced. I wore that. That was one of my favorite outfits to wear. And then my senior year, I discovered I had boobies. I had them since I was 12, but they became a magical talisman. And I wore low-cut things a lot my senior year.
You were a manic pixie dream girl.
God, I hate that. But yeah, I guess I kind of was. But
I mean, that's the role that you fulfilled for the people around you.
But I didn't know, because nobody wanted to be around me. I was the weird girl with the hair color changes, and I was always reading Stephen King books, so that's literally what people knew me for. They didn't know anything about me other than I always had a book, and I looked weird, and yeah, it was just because I stopped trying to not look.
I was very good at masking, so when I got into high school, I very much fit in, because I was very good at masking. It took me all through K-12, well, K-8, to learn how to mask effectively. Yeah. Because I just couldn't figure out the hierarchy and the dynamics of the social groups. So instead of trying to figure that out, I just picked one group. And I did it really well. So it was stoners. They're easy. They're already kind of distracted.
Yeah, I went through my burnout phase too, yeah.
No, well, they were distracted because they were already kind of high. So it was really easy to fit into their social group just by dressing like them and listening to the music they listened to. And then I started getting into other areas. So the jocks. I was able to integrate myself into the jocks area because all you had to do was run track. You just had to get on football. You just had to do these things. And that fits you in, and you just act like them. You have a job after school. You dress the same way. You have the jacket, the Leatherman jacket, or
Yeah.
Leatherman jacket.
The Letterman jacket.
Yeah,
Letterman.
Nick's Leatherman jacket. And you get the class ring. You know, you get all these things, and you do the things that they do, and then suddenly you're just one of them because they forget you were ever different from them.
True. Yeah, I went through my my burnout phase because I was put in a class and this one kid was there, and I knew there were so many Marks in my high school. So I'm going to say Mark, and it could literally be one of 15 different guys that I knew. And what's funny though was this Mark happened to be the nephew of my biology teacher. And when he found out I was quote unquote seeing him, he was like, "Why? He's a piece of crap." So he called out his nephew, and like literally the next day, this Mark was like standing. He was at his locker with another girl, and it was like a week-long relationship. So it wasn't like I always say like he's my first boyfriend, but really he was. I mean,
Yeah.
we never really did anything. And he drove me home a couple times, and my mom damn near had a heart attack because I wasn't allowed to go home on outside of go home on the bus. If anybody drove me home that was a teenager, holy shit, you know, kind of like how I was with the kids when they were younger.
Right.
When they were younger. So yeah, but there's a lot of things about this movie you can totally see yourself, and I feel like it does have. There's a lot of representation, and maybe it doesn't have a lot of representation and a lot of diversity, even though there is a Hispanic family and there is La Fonda. It is
kind of representative of small town.
Small town.
USA.
That's what I was going to say. Small town USA is an obnoxious amount of whiteness. Okay.
There's a lot of mayo in that sandwich.
There is a lot of mayo in that sandwich, and there's very little flavor happening. Okay. But
a lot of egg.
What the hell were they drinking?
I want to address that. Not the egg thing, because I don't know what that egg drink really was. In my town, it's a farming community, much like kind of their town, but it's a lot more growing, things than livestock. It's more about plants there, and we had watermelon, we had cotton, we had all kinds of things that kids could go and make money at.
Yeah.
We made about $50 a day for working about 16 to 18 hours.
Okay.
During the summer. And when you got fed, it was much like that scene. You got these hot bologna sandwiches with mayonnaise on them. I don't know why it always was mayonnaise, but it was just in a pile. And sometimes, like, they had the bread, and you had to make the sandwich, but you had dirty hands and no place to wash.
Yeah.
So you were just going to use your dirty hands to make because you've been pitching melons all day. So you were just going to make the sandwiches with your dirty hands. There's no way around it. There's no place to clean off. And you got sodas, but it was like a Coke in glass bottles that had been sitting in the sun because there is no cooler.
Oh my God.
They just had them sitting on the table in the sun. So they were super hot. Sometimes they exploded.
Okay. I grew up in the Garden State. One of my jobs I had as a... Shut up. And one of my jobs I had as a teenager was a brief stint in the cranberry bog industry. And they didn't feed us, and they paid us in actual paychecks, but you brought your own damn lunch, and you're out there with snakes, and you got the waders up to your waist, and you're shaking those bushes, loosening up the cranberries to kind of push them over towards the machinery. And that was back in the day, so I don't know what they do now, but that's what we all did, and we were not paid with hot sandwiches. We were not paid with dirty hands, but we were actually paid. But I had to supply my own food, so that's just weird to me that they would even,
Well, you were working like 18 hours, 16 to 18 hours.
Oh yeah, no, they gave us like.
So
I think I worked like 4 hours.
They would feed you once. Mm-hmm. It was in the middle of the day, so you had the rest of the night
Oh
It
my
would go to
God.
nighttime. You're thinking you're done. You're not done after you pitch the melons, and they get all those watermelons into a central location on trailers that are, these flatbed trailers with the tractors and stuff. Then a 16-wheeler comes in, and you've got to load it.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, all I had to do was just to shake some bushes with a rake.
$50 a day.
Holy crap. No, I mean, I think I made like $5 an hour, but I still made a couple dollars.
It was $50 a day to do all of that
I guess you did do
labor.
I mean, you did make more money than me, and you did get a free lunch, but you had to work longer hours to do that.
And we got dirt sandwiches.
Dirt sandwiches.
It was pretty horrifying.
I mean, I could have been bitten by a snake.
You know how I don't like...
Oh, and there's spiders.
You know how I don't like dirty hands? Mm-hmm. I clean constantly.
Yeah.
I don't like...
I couldn't imagine that.
Oh, no, I was completely freaked out the whole time. Plus, we had snakes.
Well, you know how
Black
much...
racers through there all the time.
Well, so I was told later on in life that water moccasins do not live in New Jersey, but they always told us that those were water moccasins that we had to watch out for. So I don't know what's true now, but we did have to worry about spiders, because I think they're the wolf spiders. They live in the bushes, and when they flood them, they get panicky. Obviously, they get panicky, and they go for the highest thing.
That's you.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I was there after they had already flooded
Right.
the bogs, so I was just in there. They just hired us to shake the bushes. So literally,
I'm
we were
sorry,
just in
but
there as
the
teenagers
very
just
first-
shaking bushes.
The very first time a spider got on me, I would be diving underwater.
Oh, no, I would have been too, and I probably would have shit inside of those waders. Because you know me, and wolf spiders are fucking big.
Yeah, I would not want that on
God
me.
damn. So needless to say, this movie has brought out a lot of teenage and high school memories.
I think we've known Napoleon's job, though, as an adult.
Oh.
I think he becomes a taster for the milk industry.
Yes, because he was
Because
doing
he's very good, and he even medaled. He got a medal for it.
He did.
From the FFA competition, I guess, that they
Yes.
had. And Pedro actually medaled as well.
He tasted the bleach in the milk.
And the onion. And
mean-
what was the other one?
They put bleach in the milk and they made a kid drink it.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
sure to kill
you have
him.
to know these things.
Okay, so needless to say, it's not the most diverse movie, but again, it takes place in an area that is not the most diverse in America either. Yeah, I don't necessarily also think this is going to pass our Castellani.
Well, you want to find out?
Sure.
Let's see. So there have to be at least 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue each.
Weirdly enough, there is
Okay, hit me.
Deb and Summer Wheatley.
Does Summer have?
Summer has more than 5 lines. She's running for president. She says a lot of things. She talks to Napoleon.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
She and she actually has a last name, and Deb doesn't.
Does Deb not?
Deb's not been given a last name. I looked. I did not
Okay.
see a last name for Deb.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Okay.
So, yeah.
So it passes that one. Those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about their relationship.
They don't talk about relationships at all.
Not once.
Holy crap, this is going to pass the Castellani.
Let's not get crazy there. So it passes that one because
That's true.
they do have conversations, not with each other, but they
Yep.
do have conversations, and they're not about their relationships.
Exactly.
At least one of the women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it could not reach the same ending.
Oh, and I forgot to mention LaFonda because she is named and she does have more than 5 lines.
Right.
And she doesn't really talk about her relationship because when she's talking to Napoleon, they're talking about music.
Right.
Okay. But,
It's going to pass. I'll tell you why. Because LaFonda.
yep.
Because without LaFonda in the film, without her being part of the plot,
Yeah.
Napoleon Dynamite would not have had the music
he would not
with
have.
which he would have wanted to dance to, he would have continued dancing to the tape and not to the music.
Yeah.
Because he had the VHS tape he was practicing to, but this is the music he used.
Yep.
Jamiroquai's, was it Canned Heat?
I think so.
So you have to be impressed I actually said Jamiroquai right.
Yes, he did.
So LaFonda gave him that tape, which spurred him, which gave him that spark.
Yep.
And Kip went forward in his life.
That's true. He would not have.
It would not have reached the same ending without LaFonda. Now, I
'Cause
know
she's
there are going to be people that
amazing.
argue about this, but fight me on this.
Yeah, come on, give us your opinion.
I think that even though Deb is in the movie more, and while she is an important character,
I think, yeah.
it is not
They-
the lack of her that would cause a difference in the film. It is definitely I believe, LaFonda.
I think Napoleon would not have. He softens because he's pissed at Kip when, not Kip, with Rico when he finds out that he'd said something to her. He wouldn't have reacted to the people around him the way he did without Deb, but not enough that it would have mattered in the plot. But yes, what LaFonda did, her actions of just giving him that cassette tape would have changed how that movie, how it ended.
Yeah, I think
there would have been nothing for him to dance to. He would not have been prepared for anything. And that would have really kind of disqualified Pedro because he wouldn't have had a skip planned.
Right.
That's what they were hoping for. They were holding on to that. That was what they were.
I think so.
They were doing that white political act of don't tell them all they need to know so they can fuck up and we can say, well, but this was right here. Or what was it? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Well, I didn't know you were planning on bulldozing my house. Well, the plans have been available for 3 months in the basement of the library on the other side of town. You should have known about this. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So that it does pass.
It does
passes
pass.
the Castellani test,
Wow.
at least in my opinion.
I think so. You've convinced me.
Is it a feminist film? I think so in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
Mainly because Grandma is kick-ass, and
She is.
and she is the matriarchy. Deb finds her voice, and she stands up for herself, both with Rico and with Napoleon.
Okay.
The girls, I was going to say women, but the girls,
'Cause they are
the high
girls.
school girls, don't put up with crap from anyone, including adults.
Exactly.
I think that it is feminist in the way that...
So I think it's feminist in Pedro too. So while Pedro,
Yeah.
he wants to date, he wants to find a girl, but he wants to woo them. He wants to impress them. He wants the ladies to like him for himself and for what he can do for them and not so much what they can do for him, which is a very, I want to say that's a feminist point of view because feminism is about balance
Right.
and not about female or male, it's not male centric, obviously, but it's not about female centrality. It is about finding a balance between male and female. And in that he's a teenager and he's not looking for what he's going to get from the girl. It's about, what is it? His advice to Napoleon is to give her this, to make her something, to do this for the girls that he's trying to impress. He's giving him advice on how to woo them. And that to me is very, maybe not feminist, but definitely enlightened for a young man.
Well, I think it points to the changes that Pedro goes through this film. He starts off with rushing a cake over to a door.
Mm-hmm.
But then he kind of accepts the fact that he can just be friends with a girl.
Yeah.
Because he's friends with Deb.
Yeah.
And
they go to the dance together, but they're friends.
And they don't have this romantic relationship. It is not about that.
Nope.
This is about friendship. And I think that is a nice balance to have.
Mm-hmm.
So Pedro will find someone that loves him. When that someone appears, it's not going to be written for him.
Yes.
And I think that's important.
No, I think it is too. there's a couple of things I'd like to point out before we wrap this out, because this movie just has a lot of interesting points.
Vote for Pedro?
Yes, vote for Pedro, because yes, vote for Pedro. They ran out of time while they were filming the dance scene, which was the last scene to shoot. They literally ran out of film. So they only got 10 minutes of him dancing, and they had to splice it in to make that whole dance work.
Well, I thought they did 3 different takes.
They did do 3 different, not 3 different. He danced to 3 different dances.
3 different songs.
And they were like, well, which one is the better one? But it was, when they filmed it, they ran out of film.
That's funny.
And so it only took them 22 days to film this movie. And as I pointed out in my spoilers, or my hints last week, that John actually originally was paid.
Did I call Tina an alpaca? She's a llama.
She's a llama. Alpaca. Yes, we did. We were
please and not a tornado, not a hurricane. It's a tornado. And not an alpaca, but a llama.
Llama.
You can tell the difference because there's 2 L's in it.
Yama, yama, yama.
That's the only thing I know about the difference between an alpaca and a llama.
Yet we say llama, not a yama.
She is adorable, though. She's got an adorable little face.
But John Heder was actually originally paid $1,000 for the role. He didn't renegotiate when the movie got popular, made $400,000, and
Well, he got profits from it.
Yes. And so, like I said, it took 22 days to make.
I know that Jared Hess had turned down a lot of suggestions to cast more popular people, well-knowns, in the cast. And instead of doing that, he went with people that, like John Heder, who was an unknown at the time. And he kept people in that weren't famous. Yes. Now, Laszlo, sorry, but John Kreese, who's Laszlo, he's famous.
Yes.
To me, because I remember the 80s and I loved Real Genius.
Yes.
Even though it was problematic, and we can get into that
when we get to that one.
But I loved his character. I loved his character because he was definitely coded as autistic. Mm-hmm. And for me, I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
But what I did know is I saw a lot of his insecurities and stuff, and his mannerisms in the ways I was as a kid.
That makes sense. So my last little bit of trivia is that a lot of actors keep stuff from the sets, and John he kept his Vote for Pedro shirt, and unfortunately he has since traded it for an original golden snitch from Harry Potter. So he's a nerd too.
Okay.
But yeah.
Did you know Jason Lee almost played Uncle Rico?
Oh, that would have been weird.
That would have been weird, right? Almost too much confidence.
Oh, yeah. That would have been, ooh.
Because I'm sorry, but John really does play insecure very well.
He does.
He even did the character in Psych, who was like the master, not a spy, but he was like an eraser. He could erase people.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I could kill you with a single... But he had this like insecurity about himself that I found very endearing.
Yeah.
And even as Uncle Rico, I found him to be very endearing in a lot of ways. You can feel bad for the guy who almost had it all. If only he got played.
Yeah.
If only he was brought in so he could play, he would have been seen as being the good athlete he was. So you can feel bad for that.
And he brings that up about, I wish I had a time machine so I can go back to 1982.
Shock his balls.
Shock his balls. They deserved that.
They totally deserved shocking their balls. Don't buy a time machine off the interwebs. You get that at yard sales.
2004. Yes, you get those in a yard sale. What did he found?
I get my time traveling machines at estate sales. Thank you very much.
Estate sales, and you get your weaponry from the where did he found that little sword, the scythe?
Oh, at the thrift store.
The thrift store. That's it.
It was probably a pawn shop, but it looked like a thrift store, like the kind maybe like a lesser Goodwill.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the Gabrielle when she gave up her staff in Xena, she ended up with 2 of those scythes.
Yeah, 2 scythes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a movie, and then just to top it all off, the movie starts out with unquestionably to me, one of the best Jack White songs.
I think so too.
I love Jack White. I love White Stripes. I can't even tell you how much I love them, but that song just gives me a happy.
Yeah.
It's just a happy little song.
So here's my summation on Napoleon Dynamite. Not that we haven't talked about it so long. It's that this is a film you can watch over and over again, and you find not new things in it necessarily. You will. Mm-hmm. But you will also find new emotions that they bring up. Every time you watch it, it's going to be some kind of new facet that you start feeling things about.
Oh, definitely.
And it's weird because, again, you're the one that has to fill that emotive state because they use negative emotional states in this to draw you into the film.
We have to do a Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, and there are other ones I want to do, too, that are much like that. But, yeah, like Grand Budapest,
what is it? Moonlight something. I can't remember, but that's one of my favorites.
Oh, the Moonlight Sonata?
Moonlight, no. It's the one with the kids that get married. They marry.
I know what you're talking about.
I would say it's the one with Bill Murray, but that's
everything.
It's like the guy with the face and the hair. You know him? Yeah, that's basically a.
Oh, you mean the one underwater?
Yeah. So, or the one with the tennis guy, or the one with the rich people, and the one with the one with the chain smoker.
Even though they are very similar to each other, I find that each one of those films evokes a different feeling of despair for me.
Oh, no, there is. Moonlight Kingdom. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it is. I was playing.
Blanked on the second word and the second name. I think I like that one mostly because of the Frances McDermott's character.
Yeah, Frances, yeah.
The mom in it. And while she has a bit of stoicism to her, her kids run away, and it's just, there's just something about that.
So how did you feel? We did not ask how we felt at the start of it because, let's face it, this movie is hard to get your own feelings on.
It really is.
But tell me how you feel watching it now. What emotions dredged up for you? Was it mostly nostalgic?
It brought me joy. It brings me joy. That movie, I mean, there's moments where you're just like, eh. And then there's moments of where you kind of think about your childhood and your teen years, but there's just something beautifully joyful about this movie.
For me, it's a lot about this is too close to home.
See, I guess because it doesn't resonate with my teenage years, like the area I grew up in.
Yeah, this is a little bit too close to home for me. So I don't find joy in it. Mm-hmm. I do find nostalgia. I don't dislike all the things of my childhood.
The joy is coming from the nostalgia of it.
But again, I find that mostly it's nostalgia, not any real emotion. Mm-hmm. During moments of the movie, sure, I am very proud of each one of them finding their moment of bravery.
Yeah.
And, that is always like, even if I don't necessarily like Napoleon Dynamite, the person, I appreciate his moment that he got to have. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the smaller moments. I appreciate Pedro, and I appreciate Deb, and I appreciate LaFonda and Kip. But even though you take all of those together, I don't have an emotional aspect to the movie that's beyond nostalgia.
Well, and like we were saying, though, there's no plot per se. There's ideas of a plot. It's almost like a sitcom where there's storylines, but there's no plot to it. Like, you got the storyline of Pedro wanting to become president, and Kip trying to find happiness in meeting LaFonda, and Rico wanting to make money, and Napoleon just drifting in and out between all of them. But there's no
resolution,
arcing plot.
There's no resolution to any of this.
No, it's just a family. It's literally a snapshot of this family in this town, and these people living their life from point A to point B during just that period.
I mean, I guess we get two resolutions. Pedro does win.
He does win.
you see that, and his family's around him, you see the cake.
Yes.
And 2, if you stick through all the credits...
I didn't know this, y'all.
Get to the end where it says 2 months later, and this is going to be at the very end, so it's very long.
Yes.
You'll get this special scene where they have a wedding between Kip and LaFonda.
And you get to hear him sing this beautiful song about LaFonda and his love for technology.
And you get to see Napoleon Dynamite riding a horse.
He tamed that honeymoon stallion for them.
Exactly.
So if you would like to watch this movie on your own and you subscribe to...
or with a lover.
Or with a lover. And you want to relive your childhood torments and traumas. If you subscribe to Hulu, Disney Plus, or YouTube TV, you can watch it for free. If not, you can rent it on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, and Fandango.
This movie is very nostalgic for a lot of people, but it may not be for all.
Yes, and that's understandable.
And I think that if you watch it and you enjoy it, and even if you don't enjoy it and you watch it again, you're going to find something you like about it. I think there are things to find in it, and it's a lot like picking berries. You're going to find some bad berries, things that you don't care about.
Yeah.
But you're going to find some things you do like. And I think it's okay to not look for a plot. Because it doesn't need one.
It doesn't need a plot.
This is just about some people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And within those little revolving interpersonal lives, there's a bigger theme here, and that's finding your moment of bravery. Treat everyone like they're human beings. Remember that we all deserve kindness, and we all deserve equity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Find your moments of bravery and make them mean something. This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to subscribe and rate us on iTunes or YouTube's or wherever you find us.
Our next movie for next week, here's our 2 little hints. This movie is, the original idea for the lead in this movie was actually female in the rough draft. And at the 59-minute mark of this movie, the title of the movie is referenced.
I know this one. I totally know this movie.
Because you have access to the list. So, until next time, friends, eat your dinner, Tina.
That's how we're going to go out.
There's like a buttload of games at this school. This one gang kept wanting me to join because I'm pretty good with the bow staff.